to figure out, okay, how do we craft our entire business plan together so that one milestone is to showcase it in the Startup Premier League rounds and get selected. But the larger objective is, okay, how do I really take my business forward and make it a reality? It is right now in my head. I know what I want to achieve, but let's take it forward and make it a reality, right? The journey from idea to execution is fundamentally how we will go about doing this, right? And that's the idea. But start a Premier League as a framework to say, okay, how do I crack these rounds? How do I make sure I go to the finals? And how do I really make a fantastic presentation there so that the judges are really impressed and I really pitch my business plan in a right way so that I can get my incubation, get my funding on all that stuff that goes along with it, right? So that is what we are going to do. And that's why I've used this word checklist here, because I am going to give you guys a quick checklist saying, yeah, finals, Jara, right? What is that I need to have in place, right? So in your colleges, when we all came, we already conducted the first rounds in there, right? So we looked at your pitch decks, you all gave your presentations. But apart from that, we also basically need 2-year financial projections that needs to come through, right? A little bit of a business plan. How am I going to design my product? That needs to come through, right? What is my business model? That needs to come through. Who are my competitors in this market? That needs to come through, right? So this is like a very simple 5-point checklist that you would want to put together from your journey from your college all the way to start a Premier League and beyond, right? So that's what we are basically going to look at it. But obviously now you'll be thinking, yeah, who's this guy who's basically talking about this? Why is he talking to us, right? So I'll tell you a little bit about all of those. But primarily, along with this 5 checklist, you would also want to have your narrative checklist. Yeah, your narrative checklist kya hota hai, right? Which means how are you going to tell your story? How why you really want to do this initiative, right? Why are you in the best position to do this? You want to do it now, not later, or why this couldn't have been done in the past, right? And how are you going to build your team, right? You guys are in the college, you guys are in the right place to be in, right? How are you going to build your team going forward, right? So these are the things that we would basically be focusing on, which is narrative checklist, and along with it the primary business case that we have to put together, right? So yehi hai kind of the checklist that you all will need to have in place as you go forward for the Premier League next rounds, right? So let me just quickly introduce myself. So you guys know my name, Prasanna. So I basically am a computer science engineer. In 2004, I passed out. Now don't start judging my age on that, right? I know I'm old. So after that, I went on to do my MBA from IM Bangalore. That's where my co-founder in Startup Ki Pathshala, Tanya, I met her there. And right now, her husband are the ones who are really driving this entire initiative on the field there. After that, I entered the startup world in 2012, and from there on, I've primarily been in the startup world, working across primarily in the education space. Right, I've worked across multiple different brands in different roles. Primarily building products, taking them to the market, doing all of those things there, right? So that's fundamentally been my journey. I have been there, done that, made a lot of mistakes. So today I'll share, ensure that you guys don't do those mistakes when we are building a company or building a pitch deck. So that's the idea of today's session, and this is primarily where I come from. Right, I'm extremely hands-on. So this is typically how my desk will look like. Right, I'll have a local dev machine running. I'll have my other machines running. I have my hardwares running, right? And I go to the field, I'll sit in the store to kind of understand the customer there. So this is typically how my journey has been. Extremely hands-on on building the business ground up and taking from ideation all the way to the field, testing it out, putting the business together, raising funds, and moving forward, right? Speaking of raising funds, I in my previous venture we raised somewhere around $2.2 million. It was in the education space. We started off as a small team, then we scaled it up to somewhere around 300-member team. We grew the business. We were pan India presence, and all that stuff that we have done, right? So that's the reason why I am here today to kind of give you an idea of how to think about going from ideation all the way to execution, right? So right now I'm with this very fantastic entity called Unitas Capital, where everything about funding. So now what I do, being a startup guy who's been an operator, building companies, now I'm on the other side of the table. I'm helping to identify the right companies and invest in them. Right. So it is all about funding. We invest in companies. We give loans to the companies, the early stage startup companies, and we help companies raise their equity, which is the first round of funding or whichever round of funding it is, right? So this is something that I'm currently doing, and that is a perspective I'm bringing to the table today as part of Startup Ki Pathshala's Startup Premier League workshop, right? So how is this workshop going to happen? I'm sure most of you all have logged in from your phone, just listening to it. Chalo, kuch to aaya, sun lenge types, which is totally fine. Do that, but the whole point of this workshop is not just about telling you all the knowledge of कि hey, how do you build a pitch deck? यार वो तो chat GPT से आके पूछ लेंगे वो तो कर ही लेगा, right? So the point is not to repeat something which a AI agent can do it for you all, right? We don't need to spend 1 hour for that. Chat GPT can do it for you all. I'm sure you guys are using those tools in a fantastic way. So the point of this workshop is not knowledge, but is about the insights, right? So you need these insights to kind of understand what will work when I'm going in front of the judges in the Startup Premier League next rounds, or I'm really going in front of the investors and I'm pitching them, right? So what are the insights I need to have so that I can basically go and do that? That's the point of doing this particular workshop that we are going to do it, right? So the best way to internalize whatever we are discussing today is rather than just listening it on the mobile and generally asking, hey, share me this PPT later, I would want a reference to it. वो सब करेंगे, but the best way to do is have a notebook with you. Just start taking notes, because when you actually write it down, all of you guys are in college, at least most of y'all are in college, so I don't need to tell you this. I know you hate this, but when you write it down is when you actually internally register some of the key points, right? So whatever the some key points, if you feel, oh, this is interesting, I would want to use this, अगर ऐसा कुछ है तो make a note physically in a notebook. Fantastic way of just registering it in your brain, right? So वो करेंगे. So before we really jump into the core of why we are all here, यार मुझे रियली एक बिजनेस मॉडल बिल्ड करना है. आई नो माई आइडिया, आई नो what I want to pitch, but I really want to put together a business model along with that, right? So before we do that, there is enough of us here today, but I would like to really want to kind of understand what is your background, from where are you guys coming, so that I can have a detailed conversation accordingly, right? And it's a smaller group. It's easy. We can unmute, we can have a discussion and go about it. So I'm launching a small poll, right? The poll will be right in front of you right now. This is just a background vibe check, right? You might be either a BBA or an MBA line. You may be a commerce line. You may be engineering related. So just answer this poll. That will help me understand the split in the audience, right? उसके हिसाब से हम लोग discuss कर सकते हैं. Right? Fantastic. Around 11 of you all have answered. The others who have not answered, can you all just log in and give me some inputs on this poll? Okay, interesting. So there are around, most of you all are from engineering or from management line. Couple of you all are from the commerce related fields. So far, that's how it looks like, right? So I will take that as a benchmark, right? So half of y'all are from management line, so I'm sure you guys understand all the business related stuff. Some of you guys are from the business line, sorry, engineering line. So I'm sure you guys are techies. You would want to understand, यार ये business case होता क्या है? बता दो, हम कर लेते हैं types, right? So I'll end this poll. So that's a insight I basically have, right? I'll just share the results just in case you guys want to see, right? And I will stop the sharing. Okay, cool. So that's a good insight to start off with. So This is interesting. Half of y'all are techies and half of y'all are management guys.
Sir,
So I'll need to do justice in both the
sir,
cases. Yeah, Vinanda.
sir, I am basically from physics, but I shifted to management, so I am completely zero in this aspect. So if you could help me out.
Okay, okay. No worries, man. No worries. We will cover. Time है हमारे पास. We can cover this out. And when the group is smaller, like say around 30 of us are there, it's very easy to have a really deep conversation or through those, right? So we'll do that, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, lovely. Cool. So we will move forward on this, right? Let's move forward and let's unveil the eventual checklist. So मान लेंगे यार, we are doing this for Startup Premier League. We want to really crack this out. So we want to present a presentation where the judges are really impressed, right? So बता दो मेरा cheat sheet क्या होता है, right? So typically, what is a cheat sheet going to look like, right? So this is how the cheat sheet is primarily going to look like, right? Just 1 minute while you're, yeah, okay, okay, cool. Fine. Yeah. So this is how the judges will basically look at your presentation, look at your team, and this is one of the few things that they will look at. Okay. पहले पहले की clarity of problem है कि नहीं, right? When you're saying I'm building a product, वो product क्या problem solve करता है? I assume you guys already know this piece. So अगर नहीं है तो हम लोग discuss करेंगे. Then the second piece is अच्छा चलो ये problem मैं तो solve कर ही लूंगा, बट ये मार्केट कितना बड़ा है, कहाँ पे जाके सॉल्व करूंगा और किसको जाके मैं भेजूंगा ये दिस प्रोडक्ट और दिस सर्विस, वॉट एवर यू ऑल वांट टू डू, राइट? व्हाट इज योर मार्केट अंडरस्टैंडिंग लाइन? The second piece is, can you run this whole initiative? Can you run your startup sustainably? Which means not about the environmental sustainability. Yeah, can you really make it run? Which means realistically कुछ business model है कि नहीं उसके पीछे, right? Then unit economics. अगर एक customer को मैं कुछ service करूंगा, so करके उसपे से whatever revenue I take, what is the unit economics looking like? उसका logic क्या है? And obviously the most important thing is कि यार originality क्या है? अगर आपकी तरह 100 other companies are doing the same product, what is that originally you're bringing in? What is your USP, as we call it, right? So USP, what is that? And then the most important thing is the classical challenge with a student entrepreneur is, यार तुझे तो experience नहीं है पहले to execute run a company. How are you going to run a company, or how are you going to really think about execution? That's something that's always there in the judge. So how are you bringing your execution mindset? That is, how are you going to run a proof of concept in a quick and fast and an easy way, right? So these are the typical 6 points that typically the judges are keeping in their mind when they are looking at your presentation and they're listening to you, right? So, Aj, for today, we will primarily focus on the business model and the unit economics, right? The first part of the session will focus on this. If in case you guys say, hey, I just need some clarity on the earlier topic or some other topic, yeah, TOC, proof of concept, कैसे run करूंगा? If you want some insights on that, in the end, we'll take this up and we'll discuss that. Maybe a few cases we'll discuss. उसके हिसाब से आपको समझ में आ जाएगा, okay, this is how I can quickly put together a quick and fast POC, right? So this is how the judges evaluate your plan. So this is kind of like your insights before you start the journey, right? So I'll move forward from here. So in the slides, I will have some keywords like channels, value prop, and all that stuff. Most of you guys are either in the third year or fourth year. You guys have been in the internet for quite some time. So most of the time, you will know most of these uh, keywords. What do they mean, right? But in case you don't know some of these keywords, make a note of it. We can discuss, or you just put it on a chat. I do have my second screen where I keep looking at the chat. So अगर कुछ है तो मुझे बता दीजिए, put it on the chat. I can kind of double click on that particular keyword and help you guys understand that a little better,
Sir,
right? So,
excuse me,
हाँ,
sir. So some of us are from first year too. So
okay, okay. Oh, lovely, lovely. That's really nice to see. Okay, so you have enough time to build your startup while in college itself, right?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
cool.
We are from first year.
Oh, okay, okay, Muskan. Got it. Right. Okay. So, okay, so in that case, let me just explain some of the keywords, right? So let me not assume that all of us understand all of these things right off the bat, right? So yeah, business model banane ke liye, right? So now I want to say, I have an idea. I know what problem am I going to solve. I know how am I going to go and solve it. Let's assume these three are already in place, right? And these ideas will keep changing. Anytime you have a startup idea, you'll need to know what is the problem am I solving and what is the product or service am I offering to solve that problem and who am I offering this to, right? Who am I offering this to is what my customers are, right? My customer segment basically comes from here, right? And what is the problem I solve kar raha hu? Agar the same problem many others are solving, what is my unique value proposition? Maybe I'm solving the problem very fast for them, or I'm solving the problem so cheap that others can't compete, right? That is what these three things are. But from a business model perspective, today we will look at the numbers behind it, or in terms of how do we think about channels. Channels means how do I reach to my customer, right? Should I do digital marketing? Should I have field sales? Should I basically do email marketing? Oh, my customers are in college. So should I go and market inside the college? Inside the college, how do I market? Should I directly go put posters or should I recruit brand ambassadors? बहुत चीजें होते हैं, right? So that is what you mean when you're thinking in terms of channels, right? Then revenue stream. Revenue stream मतलब यार मुझे पैसा कैसे आएगा? How will the company make money, right? So I'm giving some service of value to my customer. I'm going to charge them some money for that, right? Is the customer the only person who's going to pay for it? Are there any other means of generating revenue? And how much cost will it take for me to deliver this, right? This is just the initial bullet point. We'll go into these details, right? So these are the inputs that goes into thinking business model करने के पहले, right? So this is exactly the question, right? Finding out if your business will make money, right? कि पहले आइडिया तो अच्छा है, लेकिन मैं डोनेशन लेके I can't go and service people, right? I need to have a value proposition where customers are willing to pay so that the business can generate revenue, generate profit, and the business can scale or it can grow, right? That's always the right rule of thumb to think about it. We can do charity, fantastic, but a charity means that someone has to give money to for the charity to run, philanthropy to run, right? But the best way of doing it is social businesses is deliver good value, but at the same time generate enough money out of it so that you can sustain it. You don't have to wait for others, someone to donate money for you, right? So the question here is very simple. First you need to think is who will pay you, right? We always think obviously customers will pay, but that's not the question, right? Now all of you guys are in college. Now let's look at let's take your college as a startup which is providing service, right? Now when the college comes and says mujhe enroll karna hai, so the end beneficiary is you as a student, but who's paying the college? It is the parents who are paying the college, right? So that means the beneficiary is different. The person who pays is different, right? Now think about your marketing department in your college. Who will they pitch to? Right? They have two different customer segments to pitch. For instance, you will be on Insta, your parents may be on Facebook, right? Or sometimes not even there, right? Or on WhatsApp. So maybe to appeal to you as a potential customer, they'll pitch you in Insta, but for your parents, they'll have to run ads on Facebook or on WhatsApp, right? So who pays you can need not be only the end beneficiary, that is the student. It can be the parents also. That's just one example, right? So that's there to think. And how often do they pay you? How often do they need your service, right? In again we'll take the college example, right? There is a 3-year course, there's a 4-year course, there's every semester you pay. So every 6 months there is a payment that basically happens. So that determines how frequently the payment actually comes in and how to manage that, right? Why would they switch, right? In your case, obviously in a college that typically doesn't happen, but if the customer is using some other product, why would they switch to you, right? What is the value proposition you're giving so that they will switch to you, right? ऐसा क्या है कि आप switch करेंगे? For instance, let's assume everyone is traveling by bus to college. Let's assume the metro expands and the metro comes nearby to your college, right? Now you will think, okay, should I go by bus or go by metro? You may say, I'll go by metro because metro is faster. There is a air conditioned transport. It's much more convenient. I will go aram se. Maybe the metro charges me a little more than the bus, but I'm willing to pay for that, right? So there is a clear value proposition on why they basically want to switch on that piece, right? Then can you scale without excessive cost? Don't worry about it. We will come to that particular piece, right? Um, there's a query that has come in, which is more
What
about
about the fourth point? Fourth point, can you scale without excessive cost?
right now. Right now, all of we all are in the stage where you have an idea. Now, next stage is not scaling up. The next stage will be the proof of concept, saying that this idea works, right? So the next immediate stage, the query that is coming is also kind of like that, right? Hey, to develop a prototype, I need some money. How do I go about it? We'll address those queries, right? But for y'all, you will have to think about definitely how will you scale, right? But practically, you need to first think about how do I prove that this model works? What is my proof POC? What is my proof of concept, right? Proof of concept होने के बाद is fundamentally when we basically go and raise a bigger round of funding. Proof of concept करने के लिए as the query came in, which saying यार proof of concept करने के लिए मुझे 1-2 लाख चाहिए, right? मैं वो कहाँ से लेके आऊंगा, right? That's a query. We'll address that. We'll figure out various ways to do it. But after the proof of concept, let's say you get 2 lakhs, you do the proof of concept. Now you have established saying यार ये तो काम कर रहा है. Now you would want to raise a proper bigger round. At that point, you would want to think about how do I scale this? So proof of concept you will do to 10 customers. यार ये 10 customers से लेके मैं 1,000 customers को कैसे लेके जाऊंगा? 1,000 customers को करना है तो मुझे टीम चाहिए. I need this, that, and all that stuff, right? So that thought process is fundamentally where the scaling piece will come. We will slowly, we'll aram se, we'll double click that. We will look at the details and we'll figure out how to do those pieces, right? So that particular piece is there. Keep the queries coming, guys. This is good set of queries you all are asking. We will address that, right? So we'll definitely address those particular pieces.
Okay.
As we think about the proof of concept, then we'll come back and think about how do we fund it. Then we'll go back and say, when I do a proof of concept, what are the metrics I need to think about, right? How do I prove to the world my idea work, right? ऐसे जाके बोलने से नहीं होता है, right? How do I show them the proof that this idea actually work, right? So that other piece basically comes in. Okay. So uh, this is kind of where the first framework of your business model starts, right? ये होता क्या है, right? So basically, what is my business model all about, right? So I have service, I have customers, customers are going to pay to me. Now, how am I going to go through the journey to make them pay for my service, right? It could be something like a marketplace. No worries, I'm giving you examples also for each of them, right? Marketplace, it could be subscription, right? Netflix, Prime, Geo, all that stuff, right? Our our phones are typically subscription, right? Could be that. It could be freemium, right? YouTube, we consume, and if you want, you can pay. Otherwise, you watch ads and basically get going, right? Or it could be direct sales, that is direct D2C, जैसे बोलते हैं, right? Direct sales, or it could be selling to enterprises. It is my business. I'm not selling it to end customer, to an individual. I'm selling it to a company, right? So that's fundamentally the other aspect. These are the three things. These are the 5 things. Now let's look at the examples for these 5 things, right? So revenue model कैसे काम करता है? Generally, Swiggy, Zomato क्या करते हैं? रेस्टोरेंट लेते हैं, हमें डिलीवर करते हैं. They ensure that all of those happens. They take the commission out of that, right? Because they are the ones who are getting the customer. It's a classical platform model, right? So that is your commission-based model, which is Swiggy, right? Misho क्या करता है? Misho also is like a Flipkart or an Amazon, right? But they basically have a seller side fees, which means the sellers basically don't pay commission. They just pay one particular amount so that they get access to the platform and they basically go through that, right? Notion is nothing but a note taking kind of an application, or YouTube मान लेंगे, right? So YouTube in our particular case, which is basically freemium, ads देख लो, कर लो, अगर चाहिए तो you basically go and pay money and take it up, right? Canva, where I made this presentation, has a subscription model, right? Urban Company is commission plus subscription, दोनों होते हैं उसमें. So it is not that if I take a commission, now I'll go back to the previous one, right? It is not that if I pick up this, सिर्फ इसी में मुझे घर चलाना है. Maybe your business will have an option to pick up direct and market-based commissions also can happen, right? For instance, a restaurant can sell directly to the customer, or they can be in a marketplace like a Swiggy or a Zomato, and they can sell from there also, right? So these are the different ways in which fundamentally the sale can happen for the business, right? Now, what does this mean? आपके presentation में you will tell your story, you will tell your pain point of your customer, you will tell your product that you're offering, and one slide you say, what is my business model going to look like? All right. It is going to be a B2B sales. It's going to be a B2B service, which means I'm going to charge companies. I'm going to charge companies how I'm going to charge companies on per employee basis. Oh, no, I'm going to charge company one lump sum amount, 10,000 rupees per month or 10,000 rupees per year. I'm going to charge them. So there will be different ways in which you would want to, your business has to make that money. So all you need to tell after your ideation slide, after your pain point or your product slide, you just need to have a business model slide where you'll basically say, hey, this is my business model. This is how I'm basically planning to charge the customers. And I'm planning to run a small POC where I'm going to go after 10 customers, run this out and see are they willing to pay or not. All right. So that's typically what is a result of looking at this business model slide and converting it into your pitch deck. Right. Okay. So, okay. So mota, that's fundamentally what it is, right? As a concept, what I wanted to give you all is that, right? Now I could have taken an Excel sheet and started working out on, give you a sample of, okay, how the business model will work and all. But kya hota hai ki in a workshop model like this, I will be able to take up only say a SaaS model and work it out, or a consumer model and work it out. It may or may not make sense for the rest of you all, right? But how do you go about identifying, okay, how do I figure out how to build a business case for all of this? Nothing to worry. YouTube है, there is enough and more videos available there. Chat GPT है, वहां पे जाके डालो, वो Excel बना के ही दे देगा. So don't worry about getting into the nitty-gritties and details. वो आपका हो जाएगा. Worst come worst case, if you guys are not able to do that towards the end of the session, I will share my coordinates. I will share the, Startup Ki Pathshala ka email ID and all that stuff. Drop a mail to us. We are happy to sit one-on-one. Time permits, we'll sit one-on-one and we'll help you guys solve for those pieces, right? But the idea is right now, just think about what is my business model going to look like and how am I going to solve for that, right? So, so again, we'll go back to your slide, right? So let's go back to the हाँ, right? So let's go back to this, right? So अभी आपका pitch deck हो गया. Pitch deck मान लीजिए, you have your story, you have your pitch, everything inside the pitch deck. You need to basically say what my product is building, what am I going to, what is it going to look like, and then this business model, what business model am I going to follow, और ये business model को रख के how is my 2-year financials going to look like, right? How much of the revenue am I going to make? How much of the cost am I going to incur, and how much of my profit am I going to get? Profit या loss जो भी है, right? So this is fundamentally what you're going to get into this, right? And then who are my competitors in the market? How am I different from them, right? So this is your checklist of what you want to do, right? So now that we are on that particular piece, now let's just go back to the last one. Okay, right. So, how do you build a 2-year business case? Is basically you need to put together a very simple place where you need to calculate your revenue, right? And then you need to calculate your cost of delivering the piece, and then you need to calculate your profit margin. इतना ही काफी है, right? So at this stage, this is fine. Obviously, as you get more serious into the business, there is a professional way of doing this, right? But right now, you don't have to break your heads over trying to do it at that particular scale immediately, right? So that's something that you all can avoid, or you don't have to break your head over that, right? So ये revenue कैसे calculate करेंगे? It's very simple. Uh, how many sales am I going to do? That's basically your revenue, right? Sorry. How many sales am I going to do? And that is your first place of you calculating your this thing. And then what is the volume of the sales, right? The price I'm going to charge. And that's how you're going to get your revenue. This slide is a just basic backflow of saying, how do I arrive at my volume? Is basically I will reach to, let's say, 100 people, and I assume a 5% conversion, right? Which means I will end up selling to 5 people, right? And my, let's say I'm selling it for 1,000 rupees each. So I'm basically doing it for 5,000 is my realized revenue, right? So this is like simplest, stupidest way of basically thinking about this, right? So that's how you will basically start putting it together. इसमें बात क्या होगा? On first month itself, you don't say, यार first month itself I'll go full gung-ho and I'll crack the market. सब लोग आ जाएंगे. होता नहीं है, right? You'll have to gradually basically build it up, right? So your typical revenue chart will basically look like, let's say if this is the revenue and this is the months, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Your revenue chart will basically look like this as it goes up, right? Which means you're going to start conservative. Maybe on month one, you will not have any revenue, or month first 2, 3 months, you will not have any revenue. And then you will slowly start building it up, right? So is this really required in your startup Premier League finals to come and present, hey, this is how my profit and loss statement is going to look like? Actually, no, you don't need to present that because that's too much detailing. But you will definitely need to think through this and come and tell at least how are you thinking of business model and how much revenue are you thinking this business model will make, right? Because it is called startup, it is not a NGO. The difference is, if it's a startup, it is to be viewed as a business, which means ki bhai batao, how are you going to charge your customers, or how are you going to make revenue? How are you going to sustain yourself, right? So that is primarily the key piece to basically keep in mind when you guys are thinking about this, right? So right now I'll take a pause. I've spoken for quite some time, right? Instead of just buck buck karte karte, I will let's look at this query, right? So ये query में हम लोग क्या बोल रहे हैं कि यार मुझे we want to develop a prototype for a company, but this requires somewhere between 2 lakhs, right? Research, testing, and everything needs to be done. Obviously, you're saying I cannot do a friends and family round right now, right? What are the alternate ways I can basically go and figure out this piece, right? So fantastic question, very practical question. Everyone has through this, but this should fundamentally not stop us from our progress, right? So first of all, what we do in Startup Premier League, when we ask you to put together the presentation is not just for the competition. The presentation is fundamentally putting your entire pitch deck together so that we are eventually at a place where we can even share this with others who can fund this. Yeah, others who can fund this कौन होता है, right? Who else can fund this, right? So that's fundamentally where we are coming to the larger piece, right? Now, who else can you can fund this? There are so many different means in which you can fund an initiative, or at least the initial stage, right? There are grants available, right? So there are incubators available, right? There are angel investors available. Lot of different ways and forms in which money can come in for you to kickstart that particular initiative, right? So what am I talking about? Let me just pull this out, right? I'm talking about grants, right? Then I'm talking about incubators, right? and I'm talking about angel investors, right? ये एंजल इन्वेस्टर्स का नाम क्यों आता है एंजल करके? बिकॉज हमारे पास अभी कंपनी का रेवेन्यू ही नहीं है, इवन देन दे आर कमिंग एंड इन्वेस्टिंग, राइट? दैट्स व्हाई दे आर लाइक एंजल्स, दे आर कमिंग एंड blessing us to basically get started. That's why they're called angel investors. But now let's look at it practically, right? Now let's really think about it. Let's assume you need 2 lakhs to basically do your pilot. Now the 2 lakhs, you break it down, right? When you break it down, it could be because 50,000, I need it because I need cloud. I need infrastructure. I need to set up a server. I need to basically use APIs of, let's say, Gemini or OpenAI or Claude APIs I need to use. I need to basically do the UI and all that stuff, right? Now, then what happens? The 2 lakhs gets broken down into different ways. Now you're thinking, oh, all I need is a AWS account and some money credits in the AWS account. That's about it, right? So now if you look at AWS is an example, even Azure has this, right? AWS has something called as a startup credits, right? So they have this startup credits as a concept where they will basically, you need to apply and they will basically provide startup credits all the way up to $500,000, they say, but they will provide startup credits based on your application and everything. So इसमें क्या हो गया? Let's assume you apply for this and you, let's say you get some $10,000 worth of startup credits, right? So then you look at it. Oh, my 2 lakhs now has become, I need only 50,000 because all my tech requirements is taken care. Now this 50,000 I need, basically maybe I need to build a hardware or I need to take it to market and basically do something on that. Now your larger 2 lakhs has been broken down into 50,000. Now you may say, I need the 50,000 when I basically finish building this product. Now, fantastic. I have some time before I need to really need this 50,000. But now that I get my startup credits, I can immediately start building it. Right. So that means you still need that 50,000, but you're splitting you have enough time to figure that out. How do you figure that out? Same thing, right? That 50,000 clearly you can go to grants and do any of these particular pieces. This is just some examples. There are many more, right? For instance, uh, your college itself will be connected to enough incubators and enough government schemes through which they can grant fund, राइट? ये सब कैसे पता चलेगा? पूछेंगे तभी पता चलेगा, राइट? So there is enough and more government schemes because government is also very, very interested in promoting entrepreneurship among students. So there will be some grants and some fields which are very specific to, let's say, in Bengal. There is specific schemes done by the state government. There will be central startup initiative, some schemes that will be available that we will need to basically figure out. Uh, it'll be available. Same thing, just do a quick chat GPT or a Gemini or a Claude deep research, find out which schemes are available, and then start checking out those schemes, apply for those schemes, right? So the takeaway is पैसा चाहिए. It's a fact of life. Family and friends round is what it is called. First thing is family and friends से हम लोग पैसा लेके पहले ideation बनाते हैं because they are the ones who will trust your face and give you money, right? और कौन देने वाला है? बाकी नए वाले तो नहीं देंगे, right? Without anything. So that's where you need to basically put this presentation together. You participate in events like Startup Ki Pathshala and other pieces. You prove that, hey, look, my idea has validity because these guys have shortlisted me. I'm getting awards here. My idea has validity. That itself is a very big chapa, right? That is a stamp based on which you can go get your grants. Your college can give you time. AWS will give you money. Azure will give you money, right? So I'll come back to this if you guys have more questions on this. The next question by Sandeepan is, how do you charge your customer for the first time? What are the hooks that we can add to convince them, right? So क्लासिकल क्वेश्चन है ये, राइट? हमेशा वही होता है कि यार हम लोग पहले बार जाके कैसे, हाउ डू वी रियली charge these guys, right? On what basis do we charge? Okay, so now let's think about that, right? Let me, yeah. Let's think about this particular piece. Now, how are we going to go about that particular piece, right? So, first time you're going to basically go to a customer, right? And when you're going to the customer, you would want to know, are you really solving for a pain point for that customer, right? मतलब customer का pain क्या है, right? So that's what you would want to basically know, right? उसका पेन क्या है वो आपको पता होना चाहिए. This pain that the customer has, how is that customer solving this pain? Does he have an alternative through which he is solving this pain? I know I'm still talking abstract. I will make it more real. Or is he waiting to solve this pain? Right? Right? Or there are solutions available, like say alternatives. The solution is available, but the solution is very costly. Right? He's waiting for a reasonable cost solution for which he is planning to do. Or if he says he's waiting for this pain to be solved, which means when a solution comes to solve for this pain, is he willing to pay for it? Right? और वो बोलेगा कि भाई मुझे फ्री में ही मैं करूंगा, अदरवाइज आई विल जस्ट लिव विद दिस पेन. राइट? कुछ नहीं करूंगा. और right, let's assume this is what it is, right? So when you say how do I convince them to first pay me the money for whatever I'm going to offer them, right? So especially in your POC stage, proof of concept stage, we always say, if I come to you and say, hey, here's a fantastic AI tool which will basically solve for all your courses. जो भी कोर्स आपको पढ़ने की ही जरूरत नहीं है, एग्जाम में आप साइड पे रखो, वो क्वेश्चन पेपर देके सब कुछ आंसर दे देगा, आपको लिखना है. और ये कॉलेज में अलाउ भी करेंगे. मान ले ऐसे सम course is coming, then you say, oh fantastic, now I'll say, okay, here, take it for free, try it. No one will say no, everyone will take it. Now if I say no, 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 I'll charge you 20,000 rupees for this for one exam, you will take it. Then you will think about it, okay, what is the cost of me sitting and studying and cracking it? Or is it really worth cracking for this exam? Right now you're thinking, is 20,000 worth? Then I'll say, okay, not 20,000 man, give me 200 rupees. Then you will say, okay, chalo, ek biryani ka hi hai cost, le leta hu. Right? So there is always a threshold to figure out at what price that customer is willing to take your solution. So during the proof of concept stage, you would want to discover this particular piece. So never go to a customer and say कि भाई मैं ये आपको solve करूंगा तो आप लोगे. वो हर customer बोलेगा हाँ. So we have this big saying, never listen to what the customer says, always look at what the customers do. Right? मतलब वो तो हाँ तो बोलेगा ही, ना तो बोलेंगे ही नहीं. बट अगर इज रियली विलिंग टू टेक हिज वॉलेट आउट एंड गिव यू द मनी एंड देन से कि हाँ मैं ये करने के लिए रेडी हूँ. राइट? सो दैट इज द फर्स्ट प्रूफ ऑफ कॉन्सेप्ट दैट योर कस्टमर इज विलिंग टू पे फॉर यू. So rather than the question, Gangu, Sandeepan, that you asked is, how do I go charge my customer? Before that, you discover how do I understand what is the pain point of the customer and what is the customer willing to do to solve that pain. That is the framing to do. Now you go discover that particular piece. Right? Now for the question for you all will be, sir, मेरे पास तो अभी प्रोडक्ट भी नहीं है, मैं जाके दिखाऊंगा, उसके बाद ही पूछूंगा आप लोगे कि नहीं, पैसा दोगे कि नहीं. Right? You don't even need the product. What you will basically do is you will go to them saying, hey, I have already built this product. Next week the product is launching. We are basically launching it as a service, or the product is launching. We are taking advance bookings. Right? The product will come for 500 rupees for per one particular subscription or service. We are taking advance booking. Are you willing to basically book it now? Right? Which means instead of asking all of this, you're basically going and saying product तो next week आ जाएगा, अभी आप पैसा देके ब्लॉक करने वाले हो कि नहीं. राइट? मुझे अभी बताइए, because if the customer says yes, he is willing to spend that 500 rupees within the next 1 week. Right? That is the way you can basically validate some of these things. Right? So that's one particular piece there. Okay. So any other questions, guys?
No, sir, today is no one question.
Okay, so I will just stop sharing this, right? So now we'll just have some conversations and then we will try to take it up. Yeah, someone had unmuted yourself. Sorry, go ahead. Okay, so Shashwat had
Actually, we have
asked.
present our model in front of in form of a presentation, but as we are a first year student, so we are it's so difficult to make the model in very fast.
Yeah.
At-
Okay. Okay, so in today's presentation, I gave you the typical thing as judges. What do we primarily look at it, right? So we said, hey, we look for business model, story, hey, pain point, and all that stuff, right? You take these points when you have your
Hmm.
model. Let's say you have your idea in place. Use the chat GPTs of the world, the Claudes of the world, and the Geminis of the world, right? Put this in
Okay.
and say, this is primarily my evaluation metrics, critique this model, right? So why do you have to think something from the ground up? If you have the idea, use these chat GPTs and the others to quickly ideate it so that you get through the maturity of how do I really present this idea out faster, right? So it's fantastic that you are in first year and you're already going in front of the audio of the judges and presenting, right? Don't be worried about it at all, right? हम लोग सब फर्स्ट ईयर में थे, हम लोग इतने दूर आए भी नहीं, right? हमारी तो
Yes, sir.
पढ़ती थी, right? So it is fantastic you guys are doing. बिंदास जाके करना. We all make mistakes, never worry about it. These are the forums, these are the places where you go and basically try all these things out. Use all the AI tools that you have to quickly ideate, because those tools will really understand. They will quickly give you feedbacks. You can ideate it so that when you're coming in front of the judge, you have already ideated, iterated some 10 times. So it is already at a pretty mature level. उसके बाद भी feedbacks आएगा, चलेगा, right? So that's the way to think about it, right?
Thank you.
Yeah. So Shashwata, your question is about social media startups, right? Take a long time to start generating revenue. So in social media startups, the concept is that of the network effect, right? So in social media startups, typically the business plan is there, fantastic. But more than the business plan, we would really want to know कि ये idea टिकेगा कि नहीं. मान लीजिए ये the idea basically sticks around, then there are already established ways in which you can monetize. Advertisements, premium plans, XYZ and all that stuff, right? So why I'm saying 2 year plan, typically they'll see, if you really go to fundraise, they'll typically ask for a 3 year plan, right? Um, uh, 3 year plan, because what they will do is you will present a 3 year plan. They will look at how aggressively are you thinking of growing and where are you going to be at the end of first year, and end of first year where you're going to be. That is how they're going to judge how am I going to value you now, right? So that is how typically the investors look at it. The investor is not going to look at you on month zero numbers. Month zero, obviously, you're raising money so that you can grow to some level. So they look at end of first year or the end of second year, right? And that is how they look at it and say, okay, is time pay where you guys be as per your projection? Then they will judge you saying, okay, will you be able to take it there by then or not, right? So in social media, present a 2 year plan, 2 year financial plan, which is basically this is how we are planning to grow. The key point is how are you going to tap into your network effect, right? How are you going to make it sticky? The product value proposition is much, much bigger than the financial plan when it comes to social media kind of a startups, right? So that's something that I wanted to kind of highlight. But कीजिए, financial plan तो करना ही है. That's a good exercise to do, right? Okay, so that's about it. And then, what marketing strategy would you prioritize for an e-learning app that wants to build long-term subscribers trust? Content-driven credibility, influencer partnership, paid ads, and why? Okay, so I don't know what exactly inside the e-learning app that you are going to basically do, right? But if it's a platform approach, then you are saying, okay, my platform approach, I am going to think about subscription as my business model, which means they are going to come and subscribe and keep paying me again and again for something, or they're going to subscribe to my thing, pay money, and be in that platform, right? So that means I need to basically build trust, right? It's a good framework to think about. But will this only this framework basically will ensure that you'll be able to take it all the way through? That's something that we need to see. So content driven credibility, influencer partnerships, targeted paid ads, right? If you're giving only these three options, the simplest and the laziest way to think about is content driven credibility, because द लोकस ऑफ कंट्रोल देयर इज हमारा है कि हम लोग बोले यार मेरा प्लेटफॉर्म है, मेरा कंटेंट है, मैं अच्छा सा करूंगा, customer dekh lenge, they'll be very happy with my credibility. That's how we will think, because we have the locus of control on that. But the reality of world is not like that, right? The reality world is customers not just looking at you, he's looking at other things too, right? So how do you build that trust is basically that's something that need to design into if you're talking about learning, that's a passionate area for me. So you need to design the learning experience, right? In that learning experience, can you deliver the wow moments for the customer, right? In a regular way. And that's how you basically lock in the customer more from saying, okay, I'm getting value out of this. Trust is something that happens over a period of time, right? Uh, it's funnily in some businesses, the trust will come in when the businesses fail to service them, right? Indigo, abhi ka aajkal, right? Indigo ka to sabka chal raha hai. So everyone is hating Indigo and all. Now, how do they really handle when they screw it up? How do they go back to the customer and say, hey, we are sorry, this we really screwed it up. Here's your money back, or this is how I'm going to correct this out. So when sometimes when the service breaks and the customer is able to, the company is able to go back and provide a solution and connect with them humanly, the trust really solidifies, right? But that you don't have to screw it up just to build trust. See, at the early stage, marketing strategy PPT में डालने के लिए तो हम लोग बोलेंगे हाँ सर हम लोग influencer करेंगे हम लोग paid ads करेंगे and all those things, but typically the economics needs to work. Today's presentation, I did talk about unit economics, but I didn't go too much into that, because if you're doing targeted paid ads, which means for every customer, you are spending some money to get that customer. And let's say when you're spending money for 100 customers, it is some, let's say 10,000 rupees. But you will assume that from 100 customers, I go to 200 customers, it will be 20,000 rupees. It will not. The online ads, when you scale, it cost goes up exponentially. It will not be for 100 customers, if you spend 10,000 rupees, for 200 customers, it will be 25,000 rupees. It will not be 20,000 rupees, right? Why? Because you're going after more customers. That means you need to basically compete with more players to basically get those customers' attention. And hence, the more you keep on scaling, the cost actually increases. So you'll need to kind of think about those and then factor that in. But in the initial stages, if you don't have that, it's totally fine. Targeted paid ads should be the last, not the last, one of the least preferred options, especially when you're trying to build a long-term subscriber base, right? So yeah, that's on that piece. Um, so so what you guys can do, I think the other question is, when is the next presentation taking place? Are you talking about the workshop? Or are you talking about the startup Premier League's presentation round? Because there are two things we're talking about, right? Just let me know either on unmute or on just let me know on chat. Then we'll basically
I want to know about workshop date, next workshop date.
okay. So next workshop we will typically do it on Saturdays, right? So we can do it after not next week, the week after that. But we will basically figure out, because you guys might have your exams, right? So if your exams are happening at that point, we would obviously not do that workshops. So we will reach out to few of you all, take your feedbacks. We are in touch with your college, so we'll kind of know your college exam schedules, and uske hisab se we will do, right? So in this workshop, what we covered was the business plan, business case, right? Business plan. We would want to kind of ensure that you guys have your narratives, pain points, go to markets, and everything ready. In that, we will take some feedbacks from you all, and specifically उसमें से क्या चाहिए करके उसके हिसाब से we will do one or two more workshops specifically focusing on that, right? So that was there. Uh, ओके, कार डाइनिंग, कैजुअल डाइनिंग प्लेसेस, राइट? सो कोल्ड ईमेलिंग क्या होता है कि द रीजन again, for a proof of concept. So the question is, hey, I did cold emailing, fantastic, it worked, but all the judges are telling कि भाई तू cold emailing से ही मत चलाओ. Look at other channels also, right? Why we are saying, why typically the judges say that is, cold emailing may work for proof of concept. Let's say you are able to get 100 customers through cold emailing. Can you get 1,000 customers through cold emailing? Right? Will the cold emailing be effective to get 10,000 customers? Typically, no. Right? So your only way to go to market channel cannot be only cold emailing. The smart way to think about it is कि हम लोग cold emailing अब अच्छे से काम कर रहा है. But parallelly, I'm going to try out these other things, WhatsApp ads or Instagram ads or some field activity and all. So you will have these different channels in order of priority. You will say cold emailing right now working. I'm already piloting on the next channel and next channel mature होने में थोड़ा time लगेगा. वो mature होने के बाद मैं third channel निकाल के mature करूंगा. Right? So that is how you basically continuously open up new channels so that there is a constant input of leads or business that comes in. Right? So that's typically why they say always look at multiple channels also. Right? Okay. So social media app, I think there was another question on that, right? Social media app mein network effect is very important because the primary value proposition of any social media is I come there and as a customer, as a user, what do I get value is because if my friends are there, I get more value. So social media mein typically it is the network effect that basically matters a lot. I don't know about exactly what your social media solution is, but generally the rule of thumb is network effect. Can I trigger the network effect in social media solution business plan? So उस पे थोड़ा आप highlight करो. That is kind of important. To create that network effect, you would may need some resources and some initial thrust to basically make it happen. Right? For instance, if your social media app is just, let's say, focused on students, right? Then are you going to go put a billboard in some other theater and all their places, or you're going to go inside campuses and basically going to do focused marketing there, right? So you may say, okay, I'll go to campus because in a my network effect wahan pe aa jayega. I enroll 10 students from every section in the classes, then those 10 students will tell the rest of the 50 and they will come on board. So my network effect becomes easier because the community of students are already present there. Hence, my go to market will include capturing campuses for which I need to spend some XYZ amount. And that is the reason I need those particular pieces, right? So that's typically how you connect the pieces. Um, what to avoid while creating a business plan, guys? We all understand you guys are students. This is the first time that you are thinking of business. You're putting together something. Right? So the judges also knows that. So no one's going to be, यार तू अंबानी की तरह क्यों business plan नहीं कर रहा है? No one's going to ask that, right? So there are going to be some really stupid assumptions we would have made, right? For instance, typically हम लोग सोचेंगे which works for 100 customers will work for 10,000 customers. The same thing will work for 50,000 customers. But generally, that is not how it is, right? As the customer base increases, there will be a lot of inefficiencies in the system. There will be a lot more challenges. The cost will increase. All these things are there, right? So one is if you're aware of those, you factor those in. Sometimes you won't be aware of those, so you will just assume what works for my 100 customers will work for my 10,000 customers, right? So it is okay, right? You put that out, get the first cut out, get that critiqued out, and then take that feedback and make things better, right? So be a be more lenient on yourself, at least knowing that there will be some assumptions and errors that you will make, but you use all the AI tools and others to critique your plans, critique your business plans, and get the feedbacks there before you come to the judges and basically present some of those things, right? So that's one particular way to basically think about it, right? In terms of the business plans and others, right? So you will be making a lot of assumptions in your business plan. So have a base for that assumptions, right? So for instance, if you say, oh, I expect my customer will pay for this service 500 rupees, right? Then we'll ask you, on what basis are you saying he'll pay 500 rupees? Or what is your assumption? Then you will say, okay, I did a proof of concept. When I went and did, I asked for advance payment, and this is the one they agreed. It could be that. Or you will say, oh, look at my competitor who's offering a similar product. He is charging this much. That's why I have 500 rupees, right? Or it could be saying, okay, this is a completely new product, but this is healthcare related. But look at this. For any healthcare expense, typically a customer spends 1,000 rupees. So I'm taking a conservative 50% of that. I'm assuming that. So all I'm saying is, if you're making some assumptions, have a reasoning behind that, right? Saying on what basis are you saying that this will work out, right? Just that it should not be pulled out of a thin air. Then what happens? Then the seriousness, uh, the way the judges look at you and evaluate your plan with seriousness goes down. They'll say कि यार ये तो ऐसे निकाल के डाल दिया, right? ये serious नहीं है तो मैं seriously सोचूंगा नहीं इसके बारे में. Not the judges, even the investors for that matter, right? So assumptions have a base. That's one thing to avoid when you're doing the business plan. Okay, cool, guys. So I think that